Welcome to the Fest Live at Manifest. I'm Tanzel. I'm delighted to be joined here with Blake Tablak, CEO of Trax Technologies. Blake, welcome
Yes.
aboard.
Thank you very much. Great to see you.
Absolutely. Thank you
Yeah.
for joining us. So I'll get right into it with Trax
Yeah.
Technologies. So you have been leveraging AI to
Mhm.
transform supply chain management.
Yep.
Can you share some specific examples of how your AI solutions are helping customers gain better visibility and control over their supply chain operations?
Yeah, no problem. So we have 25 years worth of operational data, okay, and transactional data. And what we've been able to do with that is train series of models to help with next best decision type things. Okay. So you can imagine in the world of freight audit, there are quite a few exceptions that happen due to carrier data not being great. And the AI engines being able to deal with those for you and effectively say, this is what I recommend you do, and being able to then do it millions of times for you. In a lot of our customers, they're all global 5,000 type customers. So being able to do these things at scale, I think has been very helpful. The other side of it is normalizing data. So all the data that comes in looks different from different carriers. We've been able to normalize it using AI into very standard forms, which allows you to then use what I would call sort of the third leg of our stool, which is AI for accruals, AI for forecasting. So using our engines to go look at you and say, you should use this number for accruals, and here's how to unpack that number. Here's the veracity behind that number. You want to do scenario planning, move things between lanes, etc. Here's some options. And by the way, we've already run these scenarios for you. So really, it's designed to give you better insight into your next best action.
Awesome. And that takes me to the AI part of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a volatile market, and
Mhm.
cost control is a major complexity
Yep.
for organizations with large, complex supply chains.
Yeah.
How does your combination of AI and data analytics help these companies optimize their spending while maintaining operational efficiency?
So there's a few pieces to this. One, again, 25 years worth of operational transactional data gives you really good insights into how markets change over time. So as markets get tighter, different kinds of fees start to climb. As markets get looser, different kinds of fees start to climb. Okay, and it's really interesting to watch the two sort of mix. You have geopolitical tension, you have other things. Our software has actually been able to analyze this and give you really good views into what's actually changing and should you do something about it. So are your accessorial fees starting to outstrip your cost per kilogram? You might want to go do something about that. Yeah, and here's some suggestions from the system about what to go do about it. All of the volatility that's going on is best managed through data and best managed through use of data. And AI is really great when you have really great data sets. When you don't, you're sort of limited to chatbots and other things, which are somewhat helpful in supply chain, but not great, right? What you really want is, I have this treasure trove of information. I don't know how to make heads or tails out of it. How do I look at it and then ask it a question to come back and say, well, here's what I would recommend you do, or at least here's where you should go look, right? And when you think about cost control, man, you start to look at something like ocean or air or any of the more rail, any of the more complex, type logistics. You're going to have some sort of an automated AI engine to go look at that data and say, here's how I recommend you change that.
Yeah, and well, Trax also processes a vast amount of global freight and logistics data. How are you transforming that data into actionable insights that drive value for your customer?
We process about 185 terabits of information. So it's a huge, huge treasure trove. Yeah, specific examples. We have a large industrial manufacturing company that uses this, defense, aerospace, et cetera. And his description to us, he says, the gentleman who runs global logistics, he said, what you save us in ocean pays for the entire program. Okay, which is great. You won't tell me what it is, which I totally appreciate.
Yeah.
But that's his explanation. And what he says is, he goes, look, the amount of information we're dealing with needs to be summarized in a way that I can go action it. And it could be, I need to go look at different lanes. And when I start combining your data with other data I have, like inventory levels and CRM data for demand, I can start to get a really good picture of how I should be moving goods between A and B. So another example he gave is, he said, when the Red Sea shut down, I had to figure out, what's it really going to cost me to move things around the Cape of Good Hope? And by the way, I got to do it really quick. I got to reforecast really fast. And I have to give explanations to manufacturing about how much more inventory you're going to have to carry based on the length of time. AI does a wonderful job helping you analyze that at speed. And that's really what we've leveraged it for, which is, you have this treasure trove of information coming off of an invoice, coming off of a bill of lading. How do I use that for my advantage, right? How do I use that for my leverage as an organization? Again, not everybody wants the cheapest route, right? Everybody's trying to save money, but look, cost quality, speed, right? I may want the fastest, high quality, partner I can go find for whatever reason. That's great. Okay, it turns out I can tell you who that is. I may want the cheapest because I'm not really concerned about quality or speed. I really just for that product care about that. Really, maybe more complex questions like, should we even allow for that object to be returned to us? Right? Is the cost to have it returned, does it outstrip the value of the good? Should we just have them recycle it wherever they're at, right? And we'll send them a new one. Those are really difficult questions to answer at scale, and AI does a wonderful job helping you figure that out. And that's really where we focused all of our effort and time.
And given that focus and time, and thank you for that.
Yeah.
What separates your AI and machine learning capabilities apart in the freight audit and payment space? And how do these technologies contribute to supply chain maturity holistically?
So number one, I think we're pretty cool. So, that helps to differentiate us.
Yep.
Um, the reality is it really stems back to that 25 years. So in 25 years, the founder of this company, and I never met him, but I would love to one day. And, having taken over as the CEO, oftentimes when you take over, you don't always inherit the best stuff, right? Like you're new, you're here for a reason. But I'd love to go back and meet him and shake his hand and say thank you, because even back then he thought about, I need to store this information. I'm gonna keep, I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but I'm gonna keep track of this data. And I want to normalize this data because I know at some point somebody's going to ask me this question, what can I do with it? Well, I'm going to fast forward now, 25 years later. Artificial intelligence is best served by operational data to be trained on. Well, I got all these invoices, I've got all this, other data that's been extracted. That's really what makes our models different, is they're based on 25 years of transactional real data that we have taken from the world's largest, most complex shippers across all modes, all lanes, all fees, anything you can imagine is stored in our database, and that gives us a huge advantage over someone who doesn't have that information or didn't bother to keep it or didn't bother to normalize it. And so from our perspective, we have a huge head start on everybody else.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And that brings me to my last question. I think is a great segue. So as AI continues to obviously evolve so rapidly in our space, what innovative solutions does Trax have planned for 2025 and further to enhance your customer supply chain operations?
Yeah.
And also as an extension to that, could you share some highlights from your own AI development roadmap?
Yeah, well, I'll share some highlights and learnings. How about that too? Because I think
I'd love that.
yeah, it's always important to know. AI for exception handling. So it's not just handling the exceptions that are coming in, which everybody knows are painful to kind of deal with. It's also writing rules to handle them later on. So it's not just reducing the number of interactions you're having to have with bad carrier data. It's actually writing rules to then eliminate that noise, so you're only seeing the signal. Okay, so that's one big announcement. That's going to start on our side with audit and shippers. We're then going to move it to the carrier side to help carriers. We have a huge place in our heart for the carriers that are in our network. They're not our direct customer, but they're an indirect customer. And so what we know is we want to get them paid as fast as possible the right amount. So a lot of that exception handling is designed to really streamline the process of dealing with an invoice. The second piece that's coming out, and you'll see this tomorrow, is ingestion. EDI is tough to deal with. And we've been dealing with it since 1960. I've got a fun slide in the deck that was like Jimi Hendrix and all these rock stars from the generations. And each one of these, the point is that EDI is very old. And we're going to be announcing a huge shift in how you can submit invoices. Structured, unstructured, you want to submit PDFs. As a carrier, you can self-onboard, right? And that's a big deal, and AI makes that possible because, again, your invoices may not be super consistent, or they may not really comply with the carrier or the customer, I should say, in this case, the shipper's requirements. Great, how much of that can you get done? And AI will help you with the rest of it. So that's another big announcement we're making. And then the last one deals with finance, deals with accruals, deals with, sort of the more complex things that happen with the data that comes off of an engine. Or it comes off of an invoice, and you'll see that tomorrow. Anything from scenario planning. So you want to log in and say, look, we're moving everything heavy air. What if we start moving some things via ocean? Okay, heavy air takes a day, 2 days, right? Ocean might take 30 days. So what's the cost impact? Now you can start to compare that to the cost impact of inventory management, right? Now you can start to see, is it really worth it? Because your boss is coming to you one day and saying, why don't we ship all this stuff via ocean? And now you can have a cogent argument that is, because if we do that, you're gonna have to go spend twice as much on inventory, right? Now you have a seat at the table. And that's really where I'll land the plane with all of our announcements when they come to product, is giving the head of global logistics all the logistics team a seat at the table when it comes to planning. When the CFO is asking questions, we want to arm you with information that makes you strategic to the organization versus being seen as a utility, right? It better work, and when it doesn't, then I'm going to come see you. Like, that's not the relationship we want our logistics people to have with the finance department. So that's really, a lot of our announcements. Learnings. So number one, I would say, don't wait until you have a great idea to get down the path. Just start trying things, right? And you're going to fail. You're going to fail miserably, and we did.
Absolutely.
And we got crushed a few times. But the reality was you get crushed, and very quickly you then move on to the next thing. My brother and I one day, and I tell this story, we were sitting on the couch, it was summertime, and he goes, "What do you guys want to do?" I said, "We're bored. So why don't you guys go ride your bikes?" And he goes like 10 things, and we keep saying we're bored. He finally gets angry, and he gets us up, and he moves us out to the garage. He goes, "There's a pile of bricks, there's a fish tank, don't come in until you floated a brick." And we're like, "Dad, bricks sink to the bottom." He goes, "Yeah, and you'll be out here all day until they float." And he walks inside, and that was it. Well, 8 hours later, we're covered in soot. Yeah, and the brick is floating, right? And he looks at us, he goes, "What'd you learn?" "Never tell Dad you're bored. That's what we learned." He goes, "That's not what you learned. What'd you learn?" I said, "I don't know, Dad. What did we learn?" He goes, "Good ideas, they take a lot of work. Bad ideas will sink on their own. You don't have to help them." Okay, so like this great idea that is AI is not going to just happen because you go, "Oh, it's a great idea." It's going to sink a number of times until finally you go, "Wow, look at that. That's amazing." Right? And if you're a supplier like we are, get your customers involved.
Yep.
Get their opinions, right? And there's an old joke. Henry Ford said, if I ask my customers what they want, they're going to say 2 more horses. Okay, and he's trying to build a car. But it turns out our customers have some of the best insights when you ask them the right questions and where the pain and the problems in their lives are. And that's what you're trying to solve. You're trying to fix the issues your customers have. You're trying to help them get a seat at the table. You're trying to make them look amazing in their own business. And that will really help guide your product development.
Awesome. I really loved you ending on that lesson and that story with your father. That's amazing. Well, and thank you all for all the insight that you shared with us today, Blake. Pleasure to have you. And then that was another edition of the Fest Live at Manifest.